10. Ace slept until the middle of the afternoon, curled into a fetal bundle, laying on her uninjured side. She slept deeply and without dreams, oblivious to the sound of the prayers and hotel construction going on outside. When she woke, she went into the bathroom and stripped off the t-shirt she'd slept in. She stared at herself in the mirror. Her shoulder had a wide bruise that extended down her left arm and up the side of her neck. It looked like the map of a new continent. Her tan skin was pale in contrast to the deep red and purple. It hurt too much to move her arm more than slightly, but nothing seemed to be broken. Ace ran water into the sink and didn't think about Masood. She dropped a cake of soap into the sink and watched the water turn a blind milky white, the surface trembling as the taps kept filling. She didn't think about Masood. She soaked a sponge in the warm soapy water and wiped her body clean, using only her right hand, not thinking about him. The Dolmus for the airport left late that evening. Ace killed time packing and reading a battered English-language paperback she'd taken from a stack in the lobby. Most of the books in the stack were about murder. Ace was left with a choice between the complete English poems of John Donne and a slave and plantation saga. Ace took the John Donne. The book of poems fell open at The Anniversary. When a man doth die, our bodies as the womb, and as a midwife, death directs it home. Ace went back for the plantation novel. The last hotel of Ace's journey was called The Dove. It was located among a cluster of similar square white tourist units in Ikmela, a resort west of Marmaris. Ace bought a chilled bottle of apricot juice in the small hotel bar, 3 stools, a shelf and a freezer, and sat with her bags in the lobby. She had almost no luggage left now, having shed things at every stage of her journey, then leaving the rest of it last night on the road and in the ditch. Ace read her book and didn't think about Masood. When the Dolmus came, it was full of sun-tanned secretaries from the north of England, drinking to kill their depression at having to fly home to the rain and word processing. Ace sat beside a young woman with tattoos and a t-shirt that had a hologram decal of Aleister Crowley on the front of it. They passed 2 camels on the road, and the woman photographed both of them. In the fields on either side of the road, people were labouring, working their small holdings by hand. The flight was late. Ace had checked in and received her boarding pass 3 hours ago. The duty-free shop sold expensive boxes of Turkish Delight, cheap computer memory, and a selection of spirits. Ace was tempted to buy a bottle to obliterate the waiting. Drink half of it and simply wipe out the interval, wake up when the plane arrived. A new form of time travel. Instead, she joined the other passengers stranded in the departure lounge. Their flight had been late out of Heathrow, unexpected atmospheric conditions. The airport was echoing and hollow, the occasional announcements ringing off the tiled surfaces, in Turkish, then in English. It was 3 in the morning, and the returning holidaymakers looked pale and exhausted under the cruel lighting. Children were crying, and in one corner a young couple were having an intense argument, conducting it in whispers. Every face she saw was tired and defeated. Ace sat on one of the plastic Eames chairs as far as she could get from the smell of brimming ashtrays. Then she lay down on the cold, gritty marble floor, airline bag for a pillow. Other people were laying down around her, trying to sleep. The children had stopped crying, but the young man from the arguing couple was sobbing quietly in the corner, alone. A squaddy, in a grey-blue sweater and a beret, tried to strike up a conversation with Ace. She picked up her bag and moved to a new position on the floor. The squaddy didn't follow. He had a downy blonde moustache and a rolled-up copy of Hustler magazine. Ace lay staring at the airport ceiling. The floor felt good against her back, infinitely solid. Ace liked solid reality, when she could get it. Uniformed guards wandered across the floor, carrying machine pistols, stepping carefully across the sleeping passengers. The departure lounge was silent now. Beyond the wide glass windows there was the black of the sky and the gleaming silver and white noses of grounded jets. Ace was thinking that the blackness was her destination. She'd be flying into it soon. Or maybe it would be blue by then. Ace saw a guard step across her, high above her. He smiled. She was certain he smiled. Ace weighed his smile against his black shoulder-slung weapon and decided the weapon won. Ace saw a pistol in her own hand. Her heart raced, a surge of fear that the guard would see it, that everyone in the room would see it. But the gun wasn't real, only a memory, and her hand was curled on the floor at her side, holding nothing. Her shoulder ached. She adjusted her position without thinking about it. Just a memory. A memory of a man who jumped off a boat. She felt cool metal against the palm of her hand, but now it was just a can of beer. She saw explosions on an island and heard the buzzing of a motor scooter, which sounded strange when it faded. A hissing just like air escaping from something. She saw carpets with intricate patterns, and she knew that if she could make the patterns out, something important would be revealed to her. Ace was angry because she couldn't see what he was getting at, the man who was showing her the carpets. Miss David had left them alone while she made sage tea in the back of the shop. The hard floor of the airport seemed to be rolling away under Ace's back, like the swell of the sea. Ace floated, dreaming sunlight on her face under the 3 a.m. fluorescent light of the airport. She woke up instantly when her flight was called. All around her, dazed passengers were getting up like the recently raised dead, groping for their belongings. Ace walked down the sloping umbilical tunnel to the jet, feeling numb. Tired stewardesses stood in the doorway of the plane, smiling and welcoming passengers on board while jet engines screamed beyond the thin plastic membrane. The plane smelled like hotel carpets and air conditioning. She found her seat and looked over to the window, trying to look out at the dark airstrip. All she saw was her own breath fogging the plastic. "I'm sorry, but there's been a mistake with your ticket." The steward had to repeat himself twice before Ace realised he was speaking to her. People in the seats nearby were beginning to turn around and look at her. She could feel their eyes on her as she fumbled in the overhead locker for her carry-on bag, then followed the steward up towards the front of the plane. The first-class compartment was a small bubble set into the top of the jet. You entered it by climbing a thickly carpeted spiral staircase. Inside, it was dimly and discreetly lit, like an expensive bar, and half empty. Ace didn't have to check her ticket to find out where she was sitting. He was waiting for her, looking up from a book he was reading. She sat down beside him, trying to get a look at the title of the book, but he'd put it away already. "They serve free champagne up here. You can have mine as well if you like." "Thanks for the ticket," said Ace. "I assume you were behind that scam?" "I just asked the airline computer nicely and it upgraded your reservation." "Didn't expect you to meet me. I dreamed about you, though." "I thought I'd come to see how you are." "Knackered." "I can imagine," said the doctor. "You've done very well. While I was talking to their computer, I checked the cargo manifest. The item you obtained for us is secure in the hold." "Secure? Secure from being damaged or doing damage?" This was news to Ace. She'd imagined the item travelling back by some separate route, a slow passage by sea perhaps. Now she could see the ribbed grey plastic barrel in the belly of the plane, not at all far from where she was sitting. She suppressed the image. "You were showing me carpets in my dream?" "Really? That reminds me. How is Miss David?" "She can keep her adder gay. I'm dying for a decent cup of tea." "She used to have a different name, you know. She's an old friend of mine." The plane was moving now, taxiing for takeoff. A stewardess patrolled the aisle, checking that seatbelts were fastened. She gave Ace a mechanical smile, her eyes cold. Ace saw herself from the stewardess's point of view, the sunburnt young woman with dirty feet and beat-up clothes, sitting beside the neatly dressed old gentleman drinking his champagne. "Well, cheers." Ace poured the complimentary champagne into the plastic airlined tumbler and drank the bubbles off it. They burned in her nose and throat as the huge aircraft gathered speed, engines audible now through all the first-class soundproofing. Gravity pushed Ace back in her seat, a big, gentle hand. She sipped the last of the champagne as the plane came off the runway and kept going, rising into the night. In my dream, the designs on the carpets were really complex. I was trying to make them out. And could you understand them? Not very often. Ace set the plastic tumbler down on the high-friction coaster and put the empty champagne bottle into the pocket of the seat back. But when I did, I didn't like what I saw. Sensible, said the doctor.